Hey guys, February 17th, 1:45 p.m. Uh, an interesting thought from Ari Cohen last week about a video about when an appropriate time or when is a good time to make money in markets. I thought that was a really interesting, wasn't really so much of a question, but a really interesting kind of thought because the answer is all the time. Generally speaking, there were about 4 or 5 months in 2008 when we were unsure whether the North American economic system was going to survive. At that point, it was not a good time to make money in markets. But generally speaking, most of the time is a good time to make money in the markets. The only thing that changes is how best to make money in these markets. Um, and obviously, this is where I would recommend financial planning. But if you're doing it on your own, there is a fair amount of thought about there is a time for growth investing and speculation. There's never really a time for it. You either do it or you don't. What I mean by speculation is, for example, there is a biotech company who is coming up with a new drug where if it succeeds, your company's going to do really well and you're going to 5 times your investment. And if it fails, then you lose your entire investment, or 85 to 95% of your investment. There's there's always It is simultaneously correct to say there is never a good time for that, and it's always kind of a good time for that. It's just a different type of investing. So that's not the type of investing I'm talking about. But the difference between growth investing and what we would call value or dividend or yield or that type of investing. The last 10-ish years, probably more than 10 years, really since the financial crisis, um, generally speaking, central banks around the world have been really accommodative in terms of stimulating the economy and um, there's a lot of stimulus in the market right now. What by all rights should have happened in March when the entire world fell apart is that the economy should have fallen apart. But central banks around the world dumped trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into support to backstop banks, backstop business, backstop the average person so that they could continue to buy groceries and stuff like that. And so we did not see a Great Depression, which we probably would have seen were these central banks not so quite so accommodative. So this is a really long-winded way of saying, so when's a good time for growth investing? Generally speaking, it's a really good time for growth investing when interest rates are low and generally speaking, money is really easy to come by. If you're starting a business right now, it's a really good time to start a business because if you need capital, you can usually get your hands on capital at a very low interest rate. As interest rates start creeping up, stocks do not perform generally as well when interest rates are rising. When interest rates are high is often the time for value. There's exceptions to all of these rules, just to be clear. So there are no hard and fast rules. But generally speaking, when interest rates are high, that's a good time to own dividend stocks and value stocks. So we have been in a very long cycle where growth has outperformed everything. And that is kind of currently where we sit now. That doesn't want to be clear. When I make a video like this and I say that, I don't want you to act on that advice. Oh, Ziegler said I should buy growth stocks now, so I'm going to buy this one random company that goes bankrupt the next day. Don't act. This is not financial advice. But in terms of the answer to the question, when is an appropriate time to make money in the market? Really, any time other than a 3-week period that happens once every 10 or so years. There was about a month in March, at the end of February, early March of 2020, where it was a really terrible time to make money. And there was quite a time in 2008 where it was a really bad time to make money. Other than that, it's generally speaking a really good time to invest. It's a good time to invest most of the time. Okay, that's all. Reach out with any questions. I don't recommend investing on your own unless you have experience doing it, and if you are looking to gain experience doing it, I'm gonna recommend starting with a very small amount of money. Interesting. So another piece of news that came out today: Roaring Kitty, aka DFV, who was the Reddit user who invested 53 grand in GameStop like 2 years ago and turned it into 48 million or whatever. They just found out that he was indeed securities licensed. So he was a CFA, he was a financial analyst, and he is now being sued for securities fraud. So careful if you're doing it on your own. Yeah, that's good.